Pacific Islanders are renowned navigators, famous for using the stars to guide them across vast oceans on adventures of discovery. Sir Tom Davis, the first Cook Islands doctor and scientist, embarked on new explorations of discovery which took him across the seas and to the stars. Building mighty Waka, he recreated the voyages of his ancestors, proving that their arrival in the islands was not by accident. But many of his pioneering efforts were met with huge resistance from the racist colonial policies of the New Zealand government.
The Maori was always wrong, the Papa'a was always right.
This is the story of a Pacific Islander whose vision impacted the world in so many ways.
In Parliament, they made jokes about it. As the monkey man, because I put some monkeys in space.
A man who rose up against New Zealand colonial policy to go on to break the frontiers of space and ocean.
We followed the stars to new lands, and then he joined NASA and helped send man to the stars.
One giant leap for mankind.
I've been interested in science for as long as I can remember, and I moved to New Zealand to become a mechatronic engineer.
Good work, darling.
And I also write children's books that teach kids about science. I came back to the Cook Islands because I wanted to raise my children in the same environment where I grew up.
Pacific Islanders tend to shy away from the sciences. They see it as the big, complex topic that only the smart kids, dare I say it, the white kids in school can do. And part of my endeavors, the books and talking in schools and representing Pacifica and tech, is to break that perception, because we've had amazing people come out of the Pacific.
And probably the greatest was a man of science, and yet few people know much about him, including myself.
I mean, I knew that he was the Prime Minister and that he was a doctor and some kind of big deal.
But when I heard that he was the first Pacific Islander to go to Harvard and that he worked on the Apollo mission for NASA, that's when I really wanted to know more about him. Papa Tom's sister, Te Whairu Wita, is 99 years old, but her memories of her brother are still very clear. Tom Davis was born on the 11th of June, 1917.
He was a very active boy, and he loved animals, and he loved the sea.
Even at a young age, Papa Tom showed his talent for creating and designing when he built a unique flotation device.
So you got 2 dry coconuts and ripped strips halfway off 2 of them, tied them together, put them under his arm, and away he went. And somebody told my mum that Tom was floating out. So a man got his canoe and went out and brought him back. So the next time he did it, he took a canoe. He paddled out.
And the canoe just happened to belong to the man who had just rescued him.
So my mum had to get the New Zealand Union Company manager to get his launch out to go and get him and bring him back.
He wanted to see how far he could go and watch Rarotonga sink below the waves. And you've got to paddle out at least 20 km before Rarotonga disappears. And he did that himself. So that shows his determination and his curiosity. And I think that stuck with him.
Because he had the love of the sea in him. But my mother wanted him to be a doctor. That's it, nothing else. She just wanted him to come back here to serve the people as a doctor. And he did.
Papa Tom studied at Otago University and was the first Cook Islands medical graduate in New Zealand. During the colonial times, the health system was run by the New Zealand government and was struggling with many issues.
Tropical disease in that period of time, we're talking about leprosy, tuberculosis, Yaws disease, filariasis, and this caused a lot of deaths.
Papa Tom had returned at a time when there was a great need for doctors.
Papa Tom was one who went through medical school, qualified as a New Zealand doctor, and then applied to come back to the Cook Islands as part of the medical team here, and he was declined. Several times he applied for it, he declined. Why? It was racist, because New Zealand government was not employing Cook Islanders to come back to take over New Zealand-related positions.
They probably felt that he was beneath them. I guess it could also be that they felt threatened. Sometimes it can be about power.
The Maori was always wrong, the Papa'a was always right. That was the reality. They never challenged it, they accepted it.
But Papa Tom would not accept it. After applying 5 times, he was finally appointed to the role of Chief Medical Officer. However, he was not allowed to stay in the Chief Medical Officer's quarters, and he was paid significantly less than the European doctors. Papa Tom began to transform the health system, establishing a nursing school, and, with the help of local doctors, they turned their attention towards tropical diseases.
And so they developed their little team, and they managed to eradicate and eliminate a lot of these diseases from within our country.
Papa Tom was invited to do a postgraduate degree at Harvard University. While he was there, he would continue the research he started at Otago University on how the human body functions in extreme temperatures. It was this research that would see him recruited to be a part of the Apollo space program.
I was giving a scientific paper in Atlantic City, and 3 people came up while I was giving the paper. And two came up on the stage and said, "You've got to go to Washington." I said, "But I can't finish my paper." They said, "No, you need it in Washington." So they marched me off there and put me in a plane. I said, "What about my stuff in the hotel?" It's all packed. It's on the plane. But I found my family. They've been told that they won't be seeing you for a while, but you're perfectly safe. They flew me in a special plane to Washington, amongst 19 others that had been chosen also to plan the Apollo program of putting a man on the moon.
60 seconds. Lights on.
Here on Earth, when we think about extreme environment, we think about where it is really cold if you go and explore, I don't know, the North Pole, the South Pole, and so on. But beyond Earth, going in space, you have the problem of really low temperatures. So to be able to shield a human being and make it able to survive in this extreme environment clearly was a significant challenge.
As you go higher, it gets very cold, and up there it's absolute zero, minus 273 degrees centigrade. So all these things I had to work out for the Apollo program.
So some of the studies, for example, that Papa Tom did in his early career, let's say, for example, surfing when it was middle of the winter in the South Island, how the human body responded to those temperatures, those were all things that could be used when you were thinking about designing something to allow people to survive in space.
On the 20th of July, 1969, Neil Armstrong became the first person to step foot on the moon.
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
Going to the moon was the crucial moments for the whole humanity, I would say. Ultimately, we are always explorers, navigators, and so on, and going to space is like, final frontier.
That just speaks to his intelligence and his capabilities to be recruited on that level of a world stage.
I hope he'll always be remembered, and he should be, for his achievements. And the fact that he grew up in colonial times, and despite the handicaps that gave to so many of our own people, he went to great heights, enormous heights. He was at the forefront of modern science. He was a representative of us Polynesian people and NASA.
Papa Tom had reached heights that few had ever aimed for, as part of one of the most important teams of research in the world. Back in the Cook Islands, though, his achievements were often unknown and could be perplexing to many.
Sometimes our sister would come to Rarotonga and we would have Tom come and have dinner with us. And the way he'd talk, and the 2 of us are sitting there, yeah, that's right. And when he goes, we look at each other and say, "Do you understand?" No, neither of us could. But we let him talk. That's what he liked. to be listened to.
In the early 70s, the Cook Islands were facing many political issues. There was a growing opposition to the government, and Papa Tom was seen as someone who could make a difference.
He was asked to come back by certain chiefs and some of the people to stand against the Premier.
The biggest issue facing the Cook Islanders was that people were leaving in droves, depleting the local labor force.
We have over 4,000 people leave these shores for New Zealand, mostly. And perhaps if things improved back here, they would turn around and come back.
The politics of the time were very divisive, and Papa Tom was leading the opposition during a tightly contested election.
People soon found out, that he had been involved in the space program. Don't want to know. Not interested. What did he do? Send monkeys to the moon? Who cares? What we want is someone who could lead the Good Democratic Party against the opposite CIP. That's what we want.
You had two different camps. You had the CIPs who were essentially socialists, and then you had Papa Tom, who came from a capitalist society in the States.
People were very passionate about the politics, and they were very personal about the politics.
So my father was a staunch foundation member of the Cook Islands Party. I thought, well, there's my father and there's my brother. Who do I support? It was very hard. But I thought, right, everybody seemed to be supporting Albert Henry, most of the people. So I supported Tom.
In 1978, Papa Tom was elected Prime Minister of the Cook Islands.
And when he took over, one of the good things he did was to encourage Cook Islanders to get into private business, as opposed to just hoping to get a government job.
My first speech on the 4th of August in 1978 was to tell our people, go do what you can to give yourself a better living. I will do as Prime Minister what I can, but do anything you like, long as it doesn't hurt anybody, doesn't hurt the environment, and is not criminal. Go do it. Boy, in 3 months they had caught on. That's how motivating this thing is. Everybody wants to be better than they are. And with that motivation, they caught on and off they went.
As Prime Minister, during a global economic downturn, he lifted the per capita income for Cook Islanders by over 10% per annum. For his services, he was knighted by the Queen in 1981.
I know that he was strongly supported. But then within his own party, there was division.
Towards the end of his tenure, he became a little autocratic. I've actually found that to be true of a lot of older Polynesian men in leadership roles. They begin to think that they're the only ones that know everything. And they're the only ones who are capable. And they have no faith in the generation behind them, which is a pity, because they end up tripping themselves up.
Papa Tom was actually, when he was Prime Minister, a very difficult man to deal with. He was known to be quite erratic, and he could be quite aggressive. He was that type of personality. Going into this final year in government 87, there was movement in the Democratic Party caucus that they had to do something. But what are they going to do? The caucus members didn't want Papa Tom as Prime Minister, but they didn't want to give up the government. What option they got? And they came up with the answer.
Sir Thomas was not in Parliament today when the motion of no confidence was proposed at himself and his cabinet. They'd been wrangling behind the scenes over his budget since last week. It was used as the excuse to oust him.
The vote was taken and it was carried. He was out, just like that. Bang.
You've got the problem here of the tall poppy. They chop you down. In Parliament, they made jokes about it as the monkey man, because I put some monkeys in space. And that was about it.
They treated him like he was a nothing. They didn't give him the respect that a Prime Minister deserved. They didn't give him the respect that the man who had served so many years for their country.
Papa Tom retired from politics and would return to his first true love, the ocean. It was a widely held belief by European historians that the original sailors of the Pacific had stumbled upon the islands by accident.
Our people had been misled that
We sailed open canoes and drifted from here to there and didn't sail purposefully anywhere. And of course, that wasn't the case. All this discrediting by anthropologists just made me mad. And I said, one day I will show them that we had bigger canoes and we could sail anywhere we want to do in the world.
And Papa Tom would get his chance.
October 1992. Dance groups and musicians, boats and their crews from all over the Pacific have come to Rarotonga to celebrate the 6th Festival of Pacific Arts.
And the theme was voyaging canoes. So I thought, here's my chance. So I managed to raise the money and built it up in my home and my veranda, 60 feet long, the main hull.
When that was completed, we all helped carry it from his home to the harbour in Nawana.
With fanfare, drums, and dancing girls and everything. It was a great, great day.
The first waka he built, the Takitumu, was a prototype, and the government funded him to build a bigger, faster model, the Te Ao o Tonga. Papa Tom voyaged on the waka around the Pacific Ocean, recreating the journeys of our ancestors and proving once and for all that they were great navigators.
We had an escort vessel, and more fearful members didn't want to lose sight of the escort vessel. But the wakas were much quicker. And Papa Tom would go, he was on one of them, and he goes, we don't need no goddamn escort vessel. So he just sailed on, whoosh, out of sight of the escort vessel. And everyone, oh. Papa Tom had no fear.
Papa Tom's influence is still felt today. His designs have been used to build other waka, which are being used for teaching young people traditional sailing techniques.
His genius is actually building, in the building of the canoes. And now all our other canoes that have been built now are all based on that design that Papa Tom put into life.
He was criticised for using modern materials, but Papa Tom knew that we were a pragmatic people. And if we come across new materials and new ideas, we'll quickly adopt them, which is what he says. He says, well, God damn, if my ancestors had access to this, they would have used it. And he was absolutely correct. But the design is Polynesian. The materials are modern, but that's it.
Our issue before that is building wooden canoes, and it's always hard to maintain. So all these canoes are now based in Tahiti, Samoa, Fiji, New Zealand, here. And it's a tool for us to continue teaching. So from that genius work of Papa Tom, and I think it has to be recognized.
Papa Tom's love of the ocean stayed with him his entire life, and he was his happiest when he was sailing.
So that's the thing with Papa Tom. He knows a lot, this fellow. When in the evenings, when we're sailing and then we gather around and just listening stories. Yeah, he comes up with stories every day. True or not, we don't know.
So he was invited to go to the South Pacific Arts Festival in Samoa back in the day. And the Voyaging Society, who had taken over ownership of the Te Ao Tonga because it was government sponsored, refused to let him take it because, you know, he said we didn't need an escort vessel. She's quite capable of sailing there on her own. And so he was forbidden to take it. So to get Te Ao Tonga away from Papa Tom, they sailed her over to Aitutaki. Now, Takitumu, because Papa Tom financed that, he owned that. So what he did, he sailed the Takitumu over to Aitutaki. He took the signboard off Takitumu, he stuck it on Te Ao Tonga, and took Te Ao Tonga over to Samoa. And we wrote a song about it called Who Stole My Waka? We laughed. We said, good on you, Papa.
In 2004, Papa Tom was appointed the Cook Islands High Commissioner to New Zealand. And in 2005, he earned an honorary doctorate from Otago University. Amongst all his other achievements, Papa Tom and his wife, Pa Ariki, also wrote the Cook Islands national anthem. He spent his final years living in the Cook Islands. On the 23rd of July in 2007, Papa Tom passed away.
It was the Cook Island Christian Church who asked for him to be buried in the churchyard, and that's where he got buried. So he's in that grave with his mother and his sister.
You know, the more I found out about him, not just the level of things he accomplished, but the scope of things he accomplished. Just being able to be the first doctor, build a yacht and sail it, being recruited, by NASA, and then coming back to step into governance. And I think that is the essence of being a Cook Islander that I want to pass on to my kids.
It's important for our people to know their history. If you don't know your culture and you don't know your past, what have you got?
He is a beacon for younger generations to achieve. You don't have to be a particular race. Your own forefather has done it, who showed that our forefathers did it. So you can do it too.
Papa Tom's legacy continues today in the Cook Islands, in the health sector, politics, sailing, and in science.
I only hope that for my children, being inspired by all those around them and who have came before them, that they find their own way to create and put back into the world and be fulfilled that way.